Hey guys, injury lawyer Scott DeSalvo here, and today I want to talk to you about the number one thing that you should never do with a lawyer. In other words, how to keep relations between you and your lawyer good, and the one thing you should never do in your injury case when you have a lawyer. So let me tell you a little story about a recent event I had with a client. So I signed up this lady who had a case, and she has, from day one, she was under a lot of stress and duress and was very unhappy. And, we put in a fair amount of work on her case to try and make it better for her and to try and get her the things she wanted. But, it takes two to tango in an injury case. So there are many, many times where I cannot immediately get somebody what they want, right? So sometimes I get people who call me up and say, I need my case settled immediately. Well, there's things that have to happen, right? So if you've watched some of my other videos, you know that we can't really settle an injury case until you're done going to the doctor and we know you're better. Because, for example, what if we settle your case and a week later your doctor says you need surgery? Once you settle a case, you can't go back and get more money, right? Or it could be that the insurance company is really particular. They want to take time to investigate your case, figure out what's wrong, figure out if they have any sort of defense. And, if they have a defense, great. And if they don't, then maybe they'll settle the case, right? But they have they need to have an opportunity to investigate the case. They don't just pay money automatically. In a lot of the cases, especially if it's a bigger injury, right, more valuable case, they want to know if there's a way for them to reduce what you're going to get and if they have a defense to the case, right? So those are just a couple of examples why, a lawyer can't just immediately settle a case. You got to do your due diligence and dot all your I's and cross all your T's. And, of course, you've probably heard the old saying of, the wheels of justice turn slowly. Well, at my office, we try and do everything we can to make the wheels turn faster. But, this lady would call me every week, even when I told her, give me 30 days. She would call every week. She would act like every time she called, it was the first time she ever heard that these cases take time, right? So every time she called, it was... she complained and she was angry and acted surprised and acted like all the things that we had talked about she had never heard before, which is a little frustrating, but I try to be patient with injured people because I understand the process and maybe they don't, which is why, you got to be patient. If you're going to help people, you can't be impatient with your clients. So, but finally we got to the last straw with this lady. So she has been calling me and calling me and calling me. And then, she also, every time she calls, she says, I've tried to reach you 4 or 5 times this week. And I have a electronic phone system, and I can tell how many times people have called. And it's, unless she's calling the wrong number, it's just not true. So lots of issues with this lady. I always like to make my clients happy. And it's personally frustrating for me when I have somebody that no matter what I do for them, they're going to be upset and angry. So I basically, the lady basically called me up, and to get to the point, she called me up and basically she lied to me. I can't tell you the details, but she basically told me one thing, and then we spent like 5 or 10 minutes talking about that thing, and then she admitted to me that she lied to me. She didn't admit it, but she said something else that made it clear that what she had just told me could not be true. And I asked her about it. I said, hey, what? Didn't you just tell me 5 or 10 minutes ago on this phone call that, X was true, and now you're telling me Y is true? And it caught her off guard, and it also, it made me feel like she wasn't being honest with me, and that she was playing games with me. Like, was she just trying to burn my time and make me sit on the phone with her for a half hour or 40 minutes? I try really hard to return clients' phone calls. It's not always easy to do. I mean, if I'm on the phone with clients, I'm not on the phone with insurance companies or doing paperwork or doing lawsuits or, in court or taking depositions. So there's only so many hours in the day I can spend on the phone with clients. And when I have a client who doesn't tell me the truth, and then I also who feels I feel like they're playing games with me. The practice of injury law is a very time-intensive deal. Like it burns a bunch of time. It's all these details, all these little boxes have to be checked before you can take a case from the date of injury to the client getting money. There are so many little details. And so obviously my time is, I have to spend time getting those sorts of things done. And when I have a client who isn't being honest with me, it's a problem not only for the time that I'm burning on the phone with them when they're telling me a lie, but what they tell me tells me what other work I have to do on their file, right? So if they lie to me or they tell me something that isn't true, it becomes a wild goose chase for me. And then I do all this other work on their file that wasn't necessary. So, very frustrating. There's also a danger that if a client tells me something that isn't true and we represent it to the insurance company and the insurance company finds out it's not true, you're going to take a case that could be settled for good value, or you could go to trial and win. But if the insurance company or the defense attorney catches you in a lie, suddenly they have a defense to the case. The defense to the case is that you're a liar. So if you would lie about one thing, that you would probably lie about being hurt or how hurt you are, right? So honesty is always the best policy, but even if there are like sensitive things in your life or things in your background or things you're not proud of, believe me, I have things like that. There's things like I don't want other people to know about me, or things in my past that I'd rather not people know about me. But when you hire a lawyer for an injury case, you have got to tell that lawyer the truth, because it can ultimately hurt your case and it wastes your lawyer's time. I mean, that's bad enough because obviously I'm a lawyer. I think it's a big deal. Maybe you don't think it's as big a deal, but the main thing for you is, like, you could lose your case if you tell your lawyer something that's not true, and then your lawyer represents it in court or puts it in your interrogatory answers or represents it to the insurance company when they're trying to settle your case. And then the insurance company or the judge or the defense attorney find out that it's not true. We've just lost all credibility. It makes the case 1,000 times harder to settle. So the number one thing you have to do when you have a lawyer, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's embarrassing, is you have to tell your lawyer the truth. And that includes admitting things that aren't comfortable to admit. There's attorney-client privilege, so you tell a lawyer something, you tell your lawyer, it's got to be your lawyer, somebody who is representing you, right? But if you tell your lawyer something that, that may end up being important in the lawsuit, if it's not important and it doesn't have to be disclosed, according to attorney-client privilege, the lawyer's not allowed to talk about it, right? And then even if it is something that has to be disclosed in an injury case, I always say, I want to know all the warts on my case. I want to know all the bad points about my case before the insurance company does and before the defense attorney does. And so if I know what the problems with the case are, I know how to manage the case and get the best outcome for my client. But if we get surprised in the middle of litigation about something that somebody doesn't tell me, or I find out that something my client told me isn't so, it may be too late for me to position the case the right way or massage the facts for a good outcome. So I know that for some people watching this, you're going to be like, duh, DeSalvo, of course you have to tell your lawyer the truth. But I think a lot of people know that, but they think maybe the lawyer doesn't need to know all the facts, or maybe I can gild the lily a little bit about something that I really don't like talking about, right? Or, I can tell the lawyer something that isn't true on something that doesn't matter. But being completely honest with your lawyer, super, super important, because, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good analogy. I can't. I guess the one I'm thinking about is like, a drip of water over 1,000 years can turn a mountain into into a valley, right? So, a little lie that you think isn't important at the beginning of the case can end up having a huge effect on the case by the time everything is said and done. So, thanks for watching. I hope that this information helps you. If you have an injury case, please tell your lawyer the truth. And if you have an injury case or you've been injured and you want to call me and talk to me about it, happy to talk to you about it. The new number I'm using these days, I often use 888-HURT-318. That's the toll-free number. But I'm rolling out a new number that I think is easier to remember. It's 312-500-4500. So if you have any questions, free consultation, I'm happy to talk to you. If you have a case you want to talk to me about, please do. Thanks for watching and have a great day.